In a recent statement, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Maitama Tuggar, raised alarms about the withdrawal of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso from the regional bloc, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. This decision marks a crucial moment for the regional bloc, with significant security and economic repercussions already surfacing across West Africa. In recent weeks, the ECOWAS has actually taken significant steps in response to the withdrawal of certain member states from the regional bloc known as the AES, the Alliance of Sahel States. In a decisive move, underscoring the spirit of regional solidarity, ECOWAS has urged its member nations to continue recognizing the national passport of Sahel states that bear the ECOWAS logo until further notice. This initiative aims to maintain a semblance of unity and cooperation amidst the turbulence caused by the withdrawal. As the West African political terrain continues to evolve, the recent withdrawal of certain states from ECOWAS has raised critical concerns regarding the socio-economic and security implications of the region. On Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue, we delve into the ramifications of this withdrawal, particularly zeroing in on Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, the Sahel states that actually form the epicenter of both humanitarian crisis and terrorism in the Sahel region. I'm Odiawa AI. Join us shortly. Welcome back to the show. On Viewpoint, we will be taking a look at the AES, the Alliance of Sahel States, which have actually 3 countries, to be specific, in West Africa that have broken off away from the regional bloc, ECOWAS. Now, the backdrop to this situation is a series of military coups that have destabilized these countries, which I have just mentioned, prompting ECOWAS to impose sanctions as early as 2024 January. The military leaders of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso responded by exiting ECOWAS and forming an alliance of Sahel states, known as the AES. Despite ongoing diplomatic efforts from ECOWAS leaders to persuade these nations to rejoin, the Sahel states members have remained resolute in their decision, asserting that their departure serves as the best interest for their populations. They have accused ECOWAS of imposing inhumane and irresponsible sanctions without addressing the pressing internal security crisis which they actually have been facing under the influence of Western powers. As of January 29, 2025, this year, the formal exit of the Alliance of Sahel States from ECOWAS was actually finalized, leaving a critical question for the regional body. Now, this question is, what is the future of ECOWAS in the absence of these member states? The loss of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Now, it not only diminishes the collective strength of West Africa, but also poses significant challenges to regional security, economic cooperation, and an ability to tackle pressing issues such as electricity shortages and environmental degradation. These ramifications upon withdrawal are already being felt as we speak in neighboring West African countries. Now, with the Sahel nations now outside the ECOWAS framework, regional efforts to combat terrorism, particularly, for instance, in northern Nigeria, to combat terrorism, banditry, and other security threats are severely being weakened. This fragmentation complicates the collective military response to insurgent groups and criminal networks that threaten stability in the Sahel region. Now, furthermore, the economic implications are quite evidently profound. The unification of West African states has historically bolstered trade, infrastructure development, and public services. The exit of the Sahel states members threatens to reverse these gains, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis already prevalent in these nations. Now, given these challenges which I have just mentioned, it is imperative for ECOWAS to reassess its strategies and find innovative solutions to maintain relevance and cohesiveness within the region. The question now, which I will ask again, confronting ECOWAS, which is quite multifaceted, can the Sahel state members be persuaded to reconsider their departure? What initiatives for countries like Nigeria, located in the trigger of Africa, and other African nations undertaking to facilitate dialogue and encourage reintegration? Most importantly, lastly, how can ECOWAS adapt to guarantee or ensure its survival and effectiveness or preparedness in a changing geopolitical landscape upon exit of these three countries? One major thing remains actually clear: West African nations are stronger together, if we may speak optimistically. Divisions weaken military and economic cooperation, hindering the region's capacity to confront critical challenges. Collaborative efforts are essential not only for addressing immediate security threats, but also for fostering long-term stability and development across the West African region. Now, furthermore, ECOWAS, as a regional body, has committed to treating goods and services from the three affected Sahel nations in accordance with the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme, the ETLS, and its investment policies. Now, this decision is quite crucial, if you will agree, you listeners and viewers, in mitigating the adverse effects of the withdrawal on trade relations and ensuring that economic interactions continue despite the political rifts. Might we recall earlier on when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, chairman of the ECOWAS regional bloc, had actually declared war on one of the Sahel states, which of course was a failure on diplomacy, if we might agree. Now, in a move to further support the citizens of the Sahel States member nations, ECOWAS has agreed to uphold the protocol that allows for visa-free movement, residence, and establishments. Until further notice, citizens from Sahel States member nations will continue to benefit the essential rights, fostering a sense of togetherness, of community, and minimizing the impact of withdrawal on individual lives. In any case, however, the reality on ground paints a more complex picture if we will take a broader look on the whole issue. The withdrawal of Sahel states from ECOWAS has intensified existing internal animosities and tensions among national leaders and citizens, because definitely there will always be differentials in opinions. Now, the historical grievances have exacerbated, leading to increased rancor and hostility. Now, I'll give you a typical example. For instance, the ongoing border disputes between Benin Republic and Niger actually showcases or portrays or illustrates the profound implications of the withdrawal. Following ECOWAS' decision to lift sanctions on Niger, Benin has found itself in a precarious situation or position, as Niger has retaliated by refusing to open up its borders, significantly depriving or denying Benin Republic of crucial transit revenue. Now, moreover, the withdrawal has resulted in a deterioration of intelligence and information sharing, which is quite important across the borders. Now, information sharing mechanism between Sahel states and ECOWAS member states. Now, definitely when we look at it, the Sahel member states and the ECOWAS member states, definitely policies will begin to shift. Ideologies will begin to be different. Now, this decline hampers collaborative efforts to combat transnational organized crime, leaving both groups vulnerable and rising security concerns. Evidently, we could see that in the banditry, as we see in the ISWAPs or the Boko Harams, just to mention a few. The potential collapse of the established regional frameworks for cooperation poses serious threats to stability and security within the region. Now, the ramifications, economically speaking, of the Sahel states' exit from ECOWAS are equally mind-boggling. With limited access to regional markets, the estranged Sahel states, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, face significant obstacles to economic growth. Now, according to experts, including Maitama Tuggar, which I mentioned earlier on, who is the basis of the discussion of today, this withdrawal could disrupt ongoing regional integration initiatives, including the African Continental Free Trade Area, that is the AFCTFA, which is vital to bolstering trade and economic cooperation across the continent. The adverse effects of this withdrawal are already becoming apparent, like I said earlier on in this narrative, as regional trade dynamics shift and new barriers are beginning to emerge. The economic interdependence among ECOWAS member states is profound, like I also said earlier on, with the existing Sahel states heavily reliant on trade with ECOWAS counterparts. Now, ECOWAS states account for more than 50% of Malian imports, 21% of imports from Burkina Faso, and 13% of imports from Niger. This dependency means that any disruption in trade flows due to the withdrawal could lead to significant price increase in domestic markets. As these countries are already grappling with economic challenges, the situation will continue to increase socio-economic pressures, potentially leading to heightened instability and unrest within their borders. The ECOWAS standby forces, the ESF, have been a critical component in addressing security threats in the region, composed of military, the police, and civilian personnel likewise from member states. These forces are activated to restore peace, security, and stability in response to military coups and other national or regional security challenges or threats. In any case, or however, the withdrawal from ECOWAS means that the Alliance of Sahel States will also exit these collective security networks, raising alarms or concerns about the potential for increased instability. The Sahel region, particularly Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, are currently facing an unprecedented wave of terrorist activities, with the 2024 Global Terrorism Index indicating a shift in the epicenter of terrorism from the Middle East to Central Sahel. Evidently, we might understand why that might be evidently possible. This region now accounts for over half of all deaths from terrorism, globally speaking. Notably, Burkina Faso has been identified as suffering the worst impact or most hits, with a staggering 68% increase in fatalities linked to terrorism, despite a 17% decrease or decline in the number of attacks. The withdrawal of the Sahel states could hinder collective efforts to combat these threats, leaving the region actually porous or vulnerable to further deterioration in security. Now, despite these challenges posed by withdrawal, it is essential for ECOWAS and the Sahel States member nations to explore avenues for cooperation beyond full membership. The situation calls for innovative diplomatic approaches, economic incentives, and tailored security strategies that respect or regard the unique context and challenges faced by the Sahel States. Sahel States withdrawal, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger from ECOWAS represents a significant turning point in West African regional dynamics, politically speaking, as ECOWAS will continue to grapple with this new reality. Frankly speaking, ECOWAS must prioritize unity and cooperation to navigate the complex challenges ahead. The future of West Africa hinges on the ability of its leaders, particularly those at the helm of the affairs or the frontliners, to foster dialogue and rebuild trust and work collectively for the greater good of all citizens within the region, as the path ahead requires not only diplomatic efforts to mend relationships which have actually gone sour, but also a renewed commitment to economic collaboration that transcends political divides. I've been your host for Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. I'm Adiawa AI.